Welcome to the Process Podcast.
From new agent to broker owner.
My name is Travis McClure. This is my co-host, Preston Guyton. Welcome to the Process Podcast, recorded on Friday morning. Preston, how you doing today?
Good, man. Can't complain. Flying to Las Vegas tomorrow for a Cheplack event. So super excited for that, for Bill Pipes and Cheplack and Dan Beer.
Yeah, that should be pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not a big Vegas fan, but I'm excited to, be in that group and that crowd. And we're going to a leadership meeting on Sunday. So it should be a lot of fun with brokers across the country.
Yep, large group of our agents go in there. I think that I saw there was about 500 agents registered for that.
Yeah, I think as of 2 or 3 days ago, there was 500. I'm sure there's probably a couple more straggling in now. So 550 people probably, roughly.
That's great. One question I had, Preston, will lead us to this episode, especially on a gloomy Friday morning. It's raining here in Myrtle Beach. Preston, how do you stay motivated?
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of different things. I think, for me, it depends on, what the motivation is, or I'm motivated to stay healthy. So I focus on health and been running the last month and a half now, I guess. So getting ready, for the half marathon we're doing in October. But as far as professionally, what keeps me motivated, one is seeing my family happy, being able to do things with them, go on vacations when I want to go on vacations, go on trips, do things when we want to do them. So, that helps me stay motivated.
Yeah, it's always a challenge, working in this industry like I have for years, like you, working with agents. You see agents that come in and just get it done every day. And you see agents that just struggle. I've sat down with a lot of agents over the years, and they almost always give me these really big goals, right? They're sitting down, they're quote unquote motivated to get a lot done in their business. And they give me these big goals. And then, after about 2 or 3 weeks, a lot of times, some agents, you just don't see them anymore, right?
Yeah.
And I always had that question in mind of like, why do some people stay motivated? I'm going to air quotes that because I'm going to explain why. And some people just lose that motivation after a couple of weeks. And something that I've found, and after, reading some books about it and listening to a lot of stuff that I listened to, it said that motivation is actually a temporary emotion. What happens is motivation gets you started, and after a while, it goes away. And typically it's when people don't see that immediate result. Great example of that, Preston, is beginning of the year. Everybody has that gym membership, right? Go to the gym on January 2nd or 3rd. Right?
Last till February 1st.
Well, statistically, it's only like January 17th or something like that. Like over half the people stop coming.
Yeah.
Right? They don't see immediate results, and then they lose that motivation. So like what I wanted to start to break down, just have a conversation about is like, what are some things agents can do to stay motivated in their health, their business, or whatever else it is they're trying to achieve?
Yeah, I think, one thing for me is you got to have short-term measurables. You know what I mean? Like for me, it's, I want to work out for at least 4 days a week.
Yeah.
Now I'm running 4 days a week and working out 4 days a week. So some days I'm just running, and then some days I'm just lifting weights, and then some days I'm doing both. So that's, for me, creating those measurables that you could look at and check off instead of, because it's a month and a half ago when I said I'm going to run the half marathon, I'm like, it's a pretty daunting task, but you got to have those measurables that you do weekly and daily that you can check those off, and it helps you stay motivated.
Yeah. And that's actually, there's science behind that. There's a book I read recently or listened to recently. It's called The Molecule of More. And it's all about dopamine, right? And if you know anything about dopamine, it's literally a chemical in your brain that like motivates you to do just about everything that you do.
Yeah.
Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But when you take big goals, right, and you don't see results, dopamine drives you to start to focus on other things. Right. So it's like that chemical in your brain that says, do this, do that. But when you start taking a big goal and you break it down into smaller measurables and you achieve those measurables, you get a little hit of dopamine.
Yeah.
Right. And then what that does is makes you come back for more, And eventually you start seeing results. And then you get a huge dopamine rush and you keep coming back, keep coming back, keep coming back. And an example of that would be, let's say an agent says they want to make X amount of dollars. That's their goal, right? That's essentially what we're talking about, a money related goal. And there's lots of different goals out there, but a money related goal, break that down to how many contacts do I need to make per day, right? There's formulas out there that'll help you figure that out. Break that down to how many people do I need to talk to per month? How many contracts do I need to write per month? How many contracts do I need per quarter? How many conversations do I need per month, right? And you can make all these small measurables that you start working towards and start seeing results from to create that dopamine cycle that's going to keep you coming back and digging into those habits that you need to do.
Yeah. And you know, what's neat about that too, like if you think about it, like we run EOS at Palms, and really, you know, if you think about EOS and the structure of EOS, you could almost run that same system in your daily life, you know, because you have a weekly checklist, which would be your, you know, steps and everything else you're going to do, and the weekly measurables. And if you hit those measurables, then you're going to reach the goal of whether it's a half marathon or making more money or whatever. And for making more money, you know, things like making so many calls, making so many contacts and all that are steps that'll get you there.
Yeah. The other thing I think you need to look at, so motivation will get you started, right? And I'll use the brand new agent in the office that's here day one. They're super motivated. They have these audacious goals, and that'll get you started. What keeps you going, number one, is the small goals, but the other thing is habits or systems, right? One of the two things. We've done some shows on systems and habits, but you have to have those. What do you need to do daily? Or what systems do you need in place that's going to keep you consistent, right? That's going to get you those daily wins, going to get you those daily goals. What are some examples of that, Preston, for an agent?
You know, coming in and making a certain amount of phone calls, like we tell agents to come in and prospect, and that's something that's important. And there's a ton of information out there. If you think about it, like there's a ton of books and everything else. There's a ton of historical data that'll show you that if you make X amount of contacts, it's going to equal X amount of contracts. And, you know, doing those things and being consistent and, you know, coming in the office every day is super, super important. And being around the people that are successful themselves. You know, if you're around people that aren't successful all the time, and that's the crowd you're with, most likely it's going to be very difficult to be successful yourself.
Yeah. The other piece of that system was lead generation system, extremely important. The other system you have to have that I think is so underrated is a calendar system or an activity management system or a schedule that you run. And I think about it like this. Really, there's three things that motivate people, right? Like, and there's other things, but there's three main things. Most people are motivated by money, health, or relationships, right? Like they want to make more money. They want to be healthier, be more fit, right? And they want to have better relationship with their spouse, or maybe they want to meet the person, man or woman of their dreams, whatever, right? Usually motivated by one of those three things. So think about, let's just take the money thing. Do you have prospecting on your schedule every single day? I would say if you don't have a plan, today's Friday, if you don't have a plan going into next week and say, hey, I know these 3 or 4 or 5 days at these specific times, I'm going to prospect. It doesn't matter. It's number one. I would put money if we were in Vegas and I could put money on this, I would say it's not going to happen because it's not on your schedule. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I say you treat your fitness the same way. You schedule out, hey, what mornings am I going to work out and what am I going to do when I get there? A lot of people wing it, right? They go, hey, you know what? I'll go to the gym tomorrow. They don't really have a plan when they get there. They mess around for a little bit and they leave. And then it's like, hey, you know what? I'm not really seeing results. So I'll stop doing it, right? Have a plan. Be intentional. So put it on your schedule. Schedule it as well, right? If it's not on your calendar, it doesn't matter. And I would say the same thing with your relationship. You know, and I hate to use the word system, but do you have a habit or a rhythm with your spouse that, hey, you know what? Once a week we go on a date night. Or, hey, I take my kids out to eat once a week and that's how we bond. Or whatever that is, put that on your calendar. It should, if it's not on your calendar, it's not going to happen, or it's not going to be prioritized, is what I should say.
Yeah. And the more simple you make that schedule, and you know what I mean? Like for me, it's the working out at the same time every day during the week, you know, coming in the office at the same time, because eventually you don't really have to think about it. It's kind of like eating breakfast. You know what I mean? I'm going to get up and run and work out tomorrow, and just make it consistent and simple. And it's a lot easier to, you know, having a floating workout schedule usually doesn't work.
Nope.
You know, having a floating prospecting schedule usually doesn't work.
Nope.
So, set those schedules in your calendar and then stay consistent with it and show up.
Yeah. And one thing Bill Pipes talks about in his agent training program is every Sunday evening, the agent should have a meeting with themselves. Sounds a little silly, but I'm telling you, it's the most effective thing you can do for your business. And he says, what, 30 minutes?
30
Sit down
minutes.
and plan out your next week. Those are the kind of things you're planning out. And I think they should revolve around those three things. I'm going to use the word money or your business, health, and relationships, right? When am I going to prospect? What clients do I have coming to town? What other things? I usually say, what are the top 3 things I need to achieve in my business this week? Figure those 3 things out. Schedule them, right? Then look at your health. Okay, what mornings am I working out this week? Put it on your calendar. Okay, relationships. What nights am I taking my wife out on a date? What days do I need to be at kid events, right? Schedule all that stuff. All that stuff is super important. Put it on a calendar, have organization behind it. I personally do a Friday meeting with myself. So usually the last thing I do on Friday afternoon is before I go home.
Do you always show up?
Yeah. I'm on time and nobody ever gets upset at the meeting, right? Because it's just me. But I spend the last hour of my Friday afternoon, Preston, and I think about those things. What are the 3 things I need to achieve next week professionally that matter the most, right? Did I achieve my goals from last week, right? And I kind of analyze that, why or why not. And then I plan out my health, I plan out my relationships and all that good stuff. And I go into next week with a very intentional plan, intentional plan. And I learned that actually from the EOS conference. That's one of the things I learned from the EOS conference this past spring that I took away. And I was like, actually, that's great. And it's been a game changer for me across the board.
Yeah. And people that, that have families and kids and children, they have a schedule, right? You can't just fly around and do whatever you want to with your kids during the school year. I mean, they got to be at school at a certain time. They got activities at a certain time. So planning things like working out and everything else, you can fit it in your schedule.
Yeah.
You just have to be willing to make the time for it, and be willing to, I mean, there's enough hours in the day. There's more than enough time, to do things like whether you walk or work out for 30 minutes. I mean, it can be done for sure.
Yeah. And I look at it for like, I'm just talking about myself. Again, everybody's life is different. Everybody's responsibilities are different. But I look at myself like that small change, that hour a week that I invested of just sitting down and making a plan, it's made me a better employee, right? Better leader, a better worker. It's actually increased my fitness because now I have more strategic time in the morning. Like I literally have like a time clock of what I work with in the morning, right? And then I think it's made me a better partner, spouse, and better to the people in my life that need me, right? Because I'm I'm not flying around by the seat of my pants.
Yeah.
I have like a very strict schedule and I'm where I'm supposed to be when I'm supposed to be there.
Yeah. And it relieves stress. I mean,
absolutely.
How do you relieve stress? You always you run towards pressure and, you push through those things and then it relieves stress and you don't have to, stress is just stuff build up over time and you're not doing it. And, if you do those things and get them done, like you're less stressed if you get those stuff done in the morning and get them out of the way.
I say number one way to relieve stress is, again, this is me talking, is where can I add certainty?
Oh yeah.
Right. And the schedule's like, there's not a lot you can control in life.
Mm-mm.
There really isn't, but your schedule going into a week, you can.
Yes.
You have 100% control of your schedule. Now, are there things that are going to happen where you have to move some things around? Yes, I get that. But you're 100% in control of your schedule. And if you stick to it as strictly as you can, you're going to add some certainty to your life. I can tell you when I go to bed at night, I'm pretty certain about what my day looks like up to about 1 o'clock. After 1 o'clock, typically I have appointments and things like that. But my day is very predictable.
Yeah.
That relieves a lot of stress in my life. And for not just for me, for my family. The next thing I had on my list here, Preston, was you always say it as, tell me your why and I'll ask you your what. Explain that.
Yeah, I mean, so when I say like, what are you looking to do? Everybody has a why. It's a lot of times it's family, kids, wife, whatever. But really, if you achieve those goals, if you achieve more income, what is that going to allow you to do? So dig deeper, right? So, is it going to pay off student loan debt? Is it going to buy a house? Is it going to pay off credit card debt? What is achieving those things going to be able to do for you in your personal life? And, that's what I always want to dig, because that makes you dig deeper, right? Like okay, you have a why. Well, what is that going to allow you to do? And then, you dig deep and find out those things that, are really the reason behind why people want to make more money, or, and is it have more free time, go on more vacations, spend more time with your family. So that's the idea behind it.
Yeah. And I look at it like this. I say vague goals equal vague commitments.
Yeah.
When you tell me, hey, I want to make more money, or I want to make $200,000, if you don't have and I always ask the question, well, what does that help you achieve? What's that going to do for you when that happens?
Yeah.
Because that's what you should focus on. The number is just a number, right? It's the number honestly doesn't matter. I've met a lot of really unhappy people that make a ton of money. I have, and I've met super happy people that don't make a lot of money, but they make enough to achieve whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So the what is actually the more important part of that. Or the people that say, hey, you know what? I'm going to get up, start going to the gym every day. Okay. What's that achieve for you? Well, I want to lose 20 pounds. Yeah. Okay. What happens when you lose 20 pounds? A lot of people can't answer those questions.
Yeah.
Those are vague commitments.
Or can't answer how to get there.
Right.
I mean, you're never going to pick a destination on a map and not have a plan to get there, or, the route mapped out. I mean, the same thing with a boat. You're not going to get in a boat and try to get to a destination without paddles.
Yeah.
How are you going to get there?
You're not.
So, I mean, you're just floating aimlessly. That's the idea, to have these measurables, to have these commitments, to have these things that you could meet daily, weekly, monthly to get to where you want to go.
Yep. Next one I have here, Preston, is accountability. I put / coaching, accountability and coaching. So I'll let you talk about that one, Preston. Why is accountability so important in meeting your goals?
Well, one thing, you need to be around people that will honestly hold you accountable. And that's a lot of times a tough thing to find, because, one, most people run from accountability.
Yeah.
And two, most people don't want to give accountability because, I do it all the time. And I question it sometimes. I'm like, am I being too hard on this person? And I'm being serious, I'm being very, very honest, and I'm willing to call people out, and, the ones that are close to me. And there's not a lot of people out there like that are, a lot of times they're afraid they're going to upset somebody or upset this person, and we do it all the time, like with kids, and it's going to be okay. You almost, you know what I mean? And in business, you need somebody to hold you accountable, to let you know when you're slipping. If you have these big goals and these big commitments and these big measurables, you need somebody that's going to say, okay, you slacked off. What are you doing? And then remind them of their original commitments and what they want to do and where where they were headed. So that's, accountability is a huge part of being successful.
Yeah. I think, we're in a society where the belief is everybody gets a trophy.
Yeah.
Right. I hate to say that, but I mean, it's true. And we're also in a society where people seek comfort. If you're hot, you go into an air conditioned house, right? I just use that as an example. Or if you hear something you don't want to hear, you find something on social media that aligns with what you do want to hear. Right. And I think what people seek out is they want to hear what they want to hear, well, not what they would need to hear. And to me, that's the difference in, are you in an environment that's holding you accountable, right? Are you around other agents that are saying, hey, you know what? I heard that last conversation you had, try this.
Yeah.
Some people are scared to hurt your feelings. I personally want to be around people that want to give me that feedback, right? That's, to me, we always use the term accountability is the highest form of love. I truly believe that. To me, like, it's candid, but it's being kind.
Yeah.
Kind candor, and that's a Gary Vaynerchuk term, but it's so real.
Yeah.
Next one I have on here, Preston, is a good one too. You talk about staying motivated and working towards your goals. What do you need to stop doing? Right? Like, if you are trying to make more money or trying to do more prospecting, but you're like, the number one thing agents always say is, oh, I just don't have time. I challenge them with the question, okay, what's in your schedule that's taking up so much time?
Yeah.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. And also have them share their screen time with you.
Yeah.
But we've done that before in meetings where I've called people out and say, hey, you don't have time. Let me see your screen time and see how much time you spend on social media.
Right.
Some social media, obviously, if you're in real estate business, a lot of times that's part of what we do, right? In business now, social media is a big part of it. But you shouldn't be on social media for 2 hours or 3 hours a day. A lot of that you could get done within 30 minutes if you're, scheduling posts and things like that. But the scrolling that's, is just like a lot of people just do it and do it and do it. I mean, that's a big part of where a lot of people will find time.
Yeah. It's what bad habits do you have that you need to eliminate? And a good way to figure that out is to just track what you do throughout the course of a day or the course of I do it for 2 weeks. Like,
That's how I go pro.
yeah, well, yeah. Preston and I were at a conference. Was it Justin Nelson?
Yeah.
What's the name of his company again?
Sphere Rocket.
Sphere Rocket. Yeah, it's a virtual assistant company. It's really interesting. He was talking about this, and I've heard about this before, but I've never heard it put this way, of tracking everything you do hour by hour and figure out what you need to eliminate, right? What bad habits, what's sucking up your time. He took it so seriously. He actually put a GoPro around his chest
for 7 days.
For 7 days, like just recorded
24
himself.
hours.
24 hours, recorded himself for 7 days and went back, I guess, watched it and fast forward or whatever, however he
had his
watched it.
VAs watch it and note how much time he took on certain things. So, I mean, that's to the extreme, but that's what he wanted to do. He wanted to, in his business, he's very busy and he wanted to figure out where he was wasting time. And he realized, I think one of the things he said was he was spending 30 minutes in the morning getting dressed. And he's like, my wardrobe's terrible. I can't even match anything. So he just went in and bought like black pants, black shoes. He wears Sphere Rocket shirts every day. So
Right.
It's, he eliminated, instead of taking 30 minutes, it takes, a couple minutes to grab your shirt and pants and same hat, shirt, pants, and shoes and gets out the door.
Right.
I mean, obviously that's too extreme, but looking at what you're doing throughout the day, you'll find a lot of time, and it'll be hours. It won't be minutes. I think that most people will find that they have a lot more time to get more things done than they think.
There's things you can eliminate, and things I think about too is like, well, how much time do we spend in our email box, right?
Yeah.
Like you start figuring that out. It's like, wow, I spent 3 hours responding to emails. Well, what if you just took 2 30-minute blocks? One in the beginning of the day and one in the end of the day, and that's when you responded to emails, right? Or something like that. The other thing I think about, we talk about fitness a lot here and on our podcast, like, what do you need to stop eating? Like we had Kurt Mapula on here, he does a lot of stuff with nutrition, but one of his main things, he has you log everything you eat. What's in your diet that's messing up your fitness?
Or are you eating enough?
Right.
I mean, that's the biggest struggle for me. It's not that I eat bad. It's sometimes I'll get so busy throughout the day and we'll just skip lunch. And obviously that's not a good thing to do. And next thing I know, it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon. I haven't eaten lunch yet.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's, it's not what you're eating, but if you're, active and working out and staying healthy, are you eating enough food?
Yeah. The other one here, and it ties in accountability a little bit, Preston, is community. Are you around people that are going to push you, or are you around people that are questioning what you're doing in a bad way? And what I mean by that is a lot of times people, and I hate to use the word, I don't want to use the word lazy, but people who aren't as committed to getting their goals, right? They're not going to come in and make calls. They're not going to get up early and work out, things like that. Sometimes they'll try and make you feel bad about what you're doing, almost like shame you in a way. And don't get thrown off by that. Sometimes people are doing that because they're not willing to do it. And by you taking the actions and being committed to what you're doing, improvement, and that makes them look or feel bad.
Yeah. I mean, and you and I talked about this as, as far as like, you see so many companies out there. I hear people say, so-and-so on their leadership team, they, they're not doing their job or they don't get along with them and they don't fit into the culture. I mean, that's something to think about. Like if you have people that don't fit into your culture, are not committed like you are, and don't have strong habits and consistency on your leadership team, then it's probably not going to work out.
Right.
So I think it's important, whether you're looking at who you're around outside of work or who you're around at work or where you work, if you want to be consistent and, make more money and all those things, you need to be around people that are doing that and that make it, we talk about it when you first asked me about how do I stay motivated. I'm like, I just do it. You know what I mean? I've been so consistent and, with the habits that I have and everything else, waking up at 4 a.m. is just do it. I mean, at this point, my alarm letting me go off, I get up and, I mean, it sucks. I'm not going to sit here and lie. Some days I'm very much less motivated to get out of bed at 4 a.m. than other days, but I still do it.
Yeah. I get motivated. I've mentioned it on this show before. It's called The Morning Choice. And I actually forgot where I got that from. I was looking at some YouTube videos yesterday. And it's actually David Goggins
Yeah.
first said that. He said every morning you make that morning choice, and he calls it the battle with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's pretty interesting. I was listening to him talk, and he said two things that I thought was pretty interesting. What if you treated every morning, like, think about if you had a job interview tomorrow, right? Think about if you knew tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I have a job interview. Think about all the things you do because that's important to you, right? You're quote unquote motivated. That's important to you. You're going to lay your clothes out the night before. You're going to make sure they're ironed. You're going to get your lunch packed. You're going to get your whatever breakfast is ready. You're going to look at your schedule, make sure like kids are dropped off or whatever time, right? You're going to organize everything you need to organize so that you're at your peak performance in that interview.
Yeah.
His challenge to people is, what if you treated every day like that? What if you went to bed every single night and treated tomorrow like you had that big interview? And most people don't.
Yeah.
Right. Most people wake up and fly by the seat of their pants. And I thought that was pretty interesting. So for me, when I get out of bed, I always have that in as much fitness as I do in the morning. I sometimes have that lack of motivation too. I do. And I make that morning choice. Just like you, it's like, I can stay in bed right now and it gains me some extra sleep, or I can get up and I call it 1% better. I'm going to get 1% better at whatever it is I'm trying to achieve today.
Yeah. I mean, this morning I could have easily slept in and not gotten out of bed. I mean, my wife and kids are out of town. You know, nobody's going to wake me up and still just get up and do it. You know, luckily I did it when I did, because it started raining about 30 minutes after I finished running. So I'd much rather run not in the rain.
I'll talk about going back to the community conversation, like something I observed actually right here in this office yesterday, Preston, which I thought was pretty cool. I got here yesterday morning, 8 a.m. Yesterday was my day to do calls with leadership, right? So I led that. So we had a group of agents come in, they all make calls together. And throughout the course of the day, I was here from 8 till about 4:30. We had a little event afterwards as a company. But from 8 a.m. all the way till 4:30, there was people in the office, groups of agents, not all the same agents, but at one point or another, there was groups of agents in this office the entire day making calls.
Yeah. And you know, what's neat about that too, is you see that. And, you know, since we've started the prospecting with leadership, it's even increased even more.
Yes.
But they also share, it's nice. They share their little wins. You know what I mean? They share like the person they talked to, or this, you know, the person they just pulled from the pond, you know, so like you talked about earlier, you need to look at your little wins and count those as you're going through it, because it helps. You know what I mean? If you have these big goals and, you know, you're just focusing on that big goal and not celebrating those small wins to get there, you know, it makes it a lot more difficult.
It does. And I'll give you the opposite of that. I was talking to an agent at another company. We were just having a conversation about this or that. And one of the concerns they had is like, you know, I show up every day to prospect. And I'm the only person here.
Yeah.
I'm the only person. Is literally me and an admin. There's nobody else here. And I said, why do you think that is? And they said, well, some people are deflated by what's happening in the market. I was like, well, what do you find when you make your calls? You're like, I'm having good conversations with people, but it's kind of demoralizing when I'm the only person here doing it.
Yeah.
You know, and I took that, and actually when I walked around here, all I could think about was that agent while I was walking around the office, and like, it's the iron sharpens iron, right? Like,
he's in the wrong place.
He's in the wrong environment.
Yeah. I mean, that's, you know, and that's not to get somebody to move or jump over here or do that. It's just to, you know, explain to people that you need to focus on, and especially if you're just getting into real estate. I mean, don't just go to a company because your buddy works there or whatever.
Right.
Just make sure you go into a sales meeting. Say, hey, do you mind if I sit in on a sales meeting? And we've had a lot of agents that have joined us that have done that. And I think it's important to do that, because there's a lot of people that are faking interviews.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, they offer a lot and say they're going to do this and say they're going to do that, and it doesn't happen. So, you know, I think that needs to be a big part of what you do when you're in this business. Make sure you go spend some time with the companies that you're interviewing with, and see how they're set up, and you know, see how the other agents interact, and just make sure it's a good place you want to be.
Right. Does it align with what you're trying to achieve? Dave Ramsey said this one time, and I love this quote. He said, you can't put a donkey in a stable with stallions.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you're the stallion in the stable and you're the only stallion,
yeah,
the donkeys are going to drag you down.
Oh
You
yeah.
know what I mean? So, I just think that that's something that's very crucial and very important. Make sure you're in the right environment.
And you hear it all the time. You're going to become like the 5 people that you're around most, or 4,
Yep.
but it's different numbers you hear from different people, but it's so true. You can't, it's very hard to get out of your, it's very hard to change or get out of a situation if you continue doing the same things and being around the same people.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. You're a product of the people you spend time with and the media you consume.
Yep.
Like, and by media, I mean what books you're reading. If you're not reading, what social media you're looking at, right? Social media it's like the junk food of media. It is,
Yeah.
right? So just keep that in mind. Next thing I have on my list, Preston, and I think this is so true, is just time in general. I think, and I used the gym analogy earlier, people overestimate what they can achieve in 12 weeks and they underestimate what they can achieve in 12 months, right? A lot of times people lose motivation because in 3 or 4 weeks of prospecting or whatever, they don't see the result, right?
Yeah.
They overestimated what they thought they could achieve in that time frame. I always challenge those people, do it for 1 year, and then let's talk about the results you did or didn't get.
Yeah. And that's in a lot. I mean, I talk about, SEO and website growth and everything else. And a lot of that kind of, when I talk about SEO, I kind of give the analogy that it's kind of like you want a 6-pack and you don't have one. It ain't going to happen in 12 weeks
Right.
or 8 weeks or whatever. So a lot of times you don't see those results, especially in SEO for, 6 to 12 months, but when they come fast.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's just because most people aren't consistent with it. They're not going to put together the content that's needed, the time that's needed, and all that. And that's something that, with Easy Home Search, we focused on over the last 18 months heavily, and we'll continue to focus on. And now we're seeing the, reward from all that hard work.
It's brick by brick.
Yes.
And a lot of people don't have the patience. I view each day as a brick.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't have patience for the next brick and the next brick, the next brick. They want the wall or the building right away. And everything is built brick by brick. And that's the thing, like you got to give, from Cameron Hayes, I think he's Preston and I's new hero from the Book and Door. We talk about that book a lot, but it's a phenomenal book. He talks about to build work ethic.
Yeah, that is
good habits.
That is the best Audible book I've ever, for my 45 days of running. That's the best one I've listened to so far.
5 Hours is my favorite book I've read this year.
Yeah, it's great.
This year. But he says, do something for a year. That's how you create work ethic. That's how you create habits. That's like a really hard thing to do. Just pick one thing and do it for 1 year straight. Like, hey, I'm going to get up every day at 3:45, or I'm going to get up every day at 5, or I'm going to go to the office Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. Do it for a year straight. See what it'll have an impact on your life, but you have to commit to that. Right.
And he does say one thing in that too, like, I read the book and I'm like, I want to go buy a bow. And then I'm like, I really don't have time to go buy a bow and figure out bow hunting.
Yeah.
I don't even hunt. So,
right.
But he does say, he goes, he does all the things that he does throughout the day for one reason, and that's to be a better bow hunter.
Right.
So he's like, you can't be so, you can't focus on 5 different things, and that's what he focuses on, his health and working out and running and doing all those things, not to be better at work, but for bow hunting.
Yeah. And it goes back to, it's not the why, it's the what.
Yeah.
Right. Like everything he's doing it revolves around what he wants to be or what he's trying to achieve. And I think a lot of people don't have that. They have I feel like I'm going to take these actions because, well, 200,000 sounds like a good number. Right. Or I'm going to go to the gym every day because so-and-so, it looks like I need to be fit.
Yeah.
Right. Like, why? What goal do you have to be fit? Right. Like, what are you actually working towards? So think about that.
Yeah. And find out what you're passionate about. I mean, if you're doing something and you're not passionate about it, it makes it very difficult.
Right.
For me, I'm passionate about real estate because for me, it helped me. It totally changed my life.
Right.
Saved my life. And, I'm very passionate about real estate and helping other people and seeing other people succeed. I mean, that's really one of the, probably that makes me happier than anything else, seeing other people succeed and seeing, what they could get out of real estate and the career in real estate.
Absolutely.
I think I saw Matt shared it, and it's kind of, well, it actually is about consistency, right? So I think that he and his wife wrote 7 contracts over the last like 10 days.
Yeah.
And 5 of those from Easy Home Search leads, which they were either handed off or pulled out of the pond.
Right.
So 5 contracts out of 7 in 10 days. That's, and they're here, they're committed, they're calling, they're doing the things that are necessary. And that's where, the same thing, like you said before, where sometimes people do things and they don't see the results.
Right.
That happens too in prospecting. Sometimes, you prospect, and you don't see the results right away, or you don't have good conversations. I mean, there's times of the month or whatever, for whatever reason, it seems like you come in and prospect all day long. You're like, today was terrible.
Right.
So it's like everybody around the world were in the same, just went in bad mood or whatever it was.
Right.
But then you have days where you come in and like, man, I've had like 10 good conversations out of a 50 or 60 calls.
Right.
And so that's why you got to stay committed, because not every day is going to be the same.
Yep.
Some days are going to be better than others, but if you stay consistent, you take the average of all those days, they're going to be good.
Yeah. And I think if we're talking about real estate market specifically, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market right now. I think agents are starting to see a difference in their business and what's happening out there. But I think the agents that are taking action, we're seeing this in our own company, the agents that are taking action every single day, coming in, still making contacts, still finding the people that need to do real estate transactions or want to do real estate transactions. And they're out there. Is there less of them? Sure. There's definitely less of them. But what's the other aspect of that? There's going to be less agents taking action, because there is. We saw this during COVID. We saw this in 2007, 2008. Some agents, it's the flight, fight, or freeze response. Some agents are going to leave the industry. Some agents are not going to take any action at all, because they just kind of throw their hands up in the air and they get frustrated and they lose motivation. It's the agents that take the action. That's the fight. Take the action. They're going to grow their business. They're going to find the people that want to do real estate, and they're going to surpass the other agents.
Yeah. I mean, and they'll be more consistent. Like their income will probably go down some because of the market, but you also got to look at this, right? So there's less transactions, but there's also less agents.
Right.
And most likely, you think about this, the commission is probably going to be higher, because we saw all this in the height of the market. Builders were slashing commission they were paying. People were slashing commission they were paying.
Right.
And when the market changes, those commissions will go back up and will be at a high. So yeah, you might do less transactions, or it might be the same, but then the commission that's being paid could possibly will be more in a lot of situations.
We're actually already seeing that. I'm not going to name the builder, but there's a builder in town that did exactly that. They cut agent commissions pretty significantly, and now they're paying bonuses and premiums on every house that's sold.
Yes.
Right. So it's pretty interesting that we're already seeing that in the market.
Yeah. And you'll see it continue.
Yep. All right, guys. Thank you for listening to the Process Podcast. Have a great rest of your week. Have a great day. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you.